Hey y'all, welcome to Tears and Joy in Your 20s. I'm your host, Julia Light, and I am so glad you're here. Navigating your 20s comes with a lot of highs and lows, a lot of freedom, and a lot of uncertainty. That's why I created a space for conversation about all of it. On this podcast, you'll hear interviews of creatives, entrepreneurs, people doing big things in their 20s, telling their story, tears and joy and all. I hope this helps you know you're not alone. There's so much to look forward to, and you can savor this season right in the messy middle. Okay, y'all, welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited today to have on Jake Traylor. Hey, Jake.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's great.
Good.
Great. How are you?
Oh, I'm great.
Good.
So glad to be here.
Yeah, me too.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. Y'all, Jake is a 2024 presidential campaign reporter for NBC News. Wherever presidential candidates go, Jake follows, writing, videoing, and reporting from across the country out on the campaign trail. Jake previously worked at the Today Show and has been with NBC since graduating college from Texas A&M in 2021. Jake is all about storytelling, mainly listening to people tell theirs and trying to make a career out of it. Hey,
Yeah.
Jake.
Hey. It sounds like I wrote that maybe 45 seconds ago.
I don't know. It sounds like you were trying to do a couple different things at the same time.
I'm not good at multitasking.
It's fine. No one is.
No one is.
Yeah.
Scientifically proven. No one's good at multitasking.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll link the study down below for that.
I'll find it.
Okay, Jake, I would love if you would tell us the story of your 20s and how you got into journalism, because you have a very unique job, and it's very cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about it.
Thanks for asking. Thanks again for having me.
Of course.
I'd love to, tell you a little bit about. I do think that storytelling piece that you read, I think I always just have been very, moved by people that told stories, and not even like expert storytellers, but just like an interesting story. And I think I've always been fascinated by whatever that looked like from all different kinds of people growing up. And so I always knew that ultimately, like whatever path or trajectory my life took, I knew I wanted it to be around like something that had to do with there had to be like a narrative arc to whatever job I was doing. And I mean that like there's narrative in everything. So it like made it pretty open. But I was originally a business major in college and from a very small town in Northeast Texas. And just like, and me and my brother talk about this, but like in our heads, if you're like what we knew, what was around us, like if you were smart, if you're like doing well in school, then like you went to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah.
And if you were great with kids, you go to be a teacher. But like in our head, there were like 7 real adult jobs that existed.
Yeah.
And then you move somewhere like New York, you hear about a place like New York and you visit and you're like, oh, there are people who for a living like paint actually. That's like a real thing. Or someone actually models or someone like there are just all these creative, interesting jobs.
Yeah.
And so I got like doses of that in college where I was like, I could not be a doctor or a lawyer or like.
Did you think you wanted to?
I thought like I was like I didn't know what I was gonna do, and so like business school sounds good.
Pretty like standard.
Good.
Yeah.
And I literally was a business management major, like the most basic sounding thing ever. But I mean, I also like truly did
really
enjoy
good
it.
skills. Yeah.
But I just thought that's kind of what you did. And then it was midway through college where I was like, wait, I have interests and passions that actually aren't here. And I started, kind of like that's kind of my journey is starting to try and find like how do I storytell for a living? Is that possible?
Yeah.
So I'll never forget I was on this like trip. I had a gap year between high school and college.
Okay.
And I was on this trip and I was in DC and I was with a friend and we were going around, there's a few of us there, we were going around the table and just like sharing like dream job. This is like right out of high school. Truly like some people have really clear direction, distinct path. I like did not at that moment in time. And I'll just remember my friend answering the question, what do you want to do like for a living or what's your dream job? And she just said, I want to be the host of the Today Show. And I just remember being so taken aback that not that was her answer, but that someone could like think that way or dream that big or truly aspire to something like that.
Yeah.
And there wasn't like selfish ambition in it. It was just like, if I could do anything, I would do this for a living.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, that's what I would do for a living. If I could do anything. And I told her, I was like, I'm going to steal your answer. Like, that's what I want to do for a living. I'd love to be the host of the Today Show.
Yeah.
And I really do think that moment, like, shout out Abram Meyer, wherever she is in the world. I do think that moment sparked like not that God like promises I will be the host of the Today Show, but I have these like ambitions and desires and they're like healthy and they're because I want to use the strengths or the gifts I've been given. And so I really started poking around at that all throughout college. I minored in journalism.
Okay.
That was like where I started actually like getting some work, like writing and shooting and stuff. And
that's cool.
then I got an internship at the Today Show. That was like a pretty like life-altering moment in terms of career trajectory.
Yeah.
Did 3 months in New York. This is January 2020. COVID hit.
Oh my gosh.
Sent packing. Went
Wait, that's crazy.
back to Texas.
Was it like, so it was like instead of a semester of school?
Yep.
Wow.
I just like took off and did a semester.
Wait, that's so cool.
Today Show. Yeah.
Dang.
And I loved it, and it was like life-changing. I mean, it was the first step on the way to like, host the Today Show in my head.
Yeah.
And so I just, I mean, every day it's like a 4-hour television show, and I was just watching storytelling at its absolute best as an intern. And I was like, I was literally getting coffee and doing
but
all the things,
you're
but
there.
like soaking it up and just like, so it was just rich, the like what I was getting to watch every single day. And then graduated. I came to work for the Today Show full time. I packed my bags and moved to New York. There was this moment where it was like COVID was happening, and like in general, no industry was like thriving necessarily, minus like mask makers and whatever. Like in general, there was not a lot. Yeah. It was it was bleak time to be a senior in high school or in college trying to find jobs. And I just got fearful, and I resorted back to like, okay, maybe I'll just go the business route.
Oh yeah.
Like I do need to make money, and I also like don't mind. Yeah. There's an interesting career, whatever. So I went the whole consulting route and like recruited for consulting, which is its own whole separate beast. Yeah. Ended up signing to do consulting, like strategy consulting with the company. Was happy, was pleased, was on this big like senior abroad trip with some of my friends and family, and I think I was in like Guatemala. And basically the Today Show reached out like super true, but at the time was random, but I really do believe now it was just like a prophetic, like, before you jump into this career, I want you to think about this career like from the Lord. And I was basically asked by my former manager, would you be interested in like applying to be a production assistant? We're like hiring again. It had been, they normally hire a production assistant once every like 2 months. It had been like 9 or 10 months just because of like
And you were the first call.
I was not the first call. Okay. I'm sure she sent an email to many, many, many people. I was one of them. Yeah. But I was like, I at least was like, this felt too like just prophetic and important. And so I took the interview, or I said, yes, I'll interview. I was in Guatemala, and then I was in Costa Rica. Like we were in all these like random like, Central American countries. So I was like taking all of these like meetings on my like, or all of these like interviews on my like iPhone. I would like, oh my gosh, we were in hostels. We were like college kids traveling. So I like would stack beach towels up and like prop my phone up. And I had a Hawaiian shirt on, and I would like button it to the top like a collared shirt.
Very fancy.
And then I would like get the phone where you could just see the collar. And I did like multiple interviews that way. Amazing. And my friends were like all in the corner of the hostel, like just like watching or whatever. And I ended up like going to work at the Today Show, being a production assistant. I was there for a year. I was at NBC as an associate producer for a year, and then jumped into this program, which we can talk about. But yeah, I think like the crux of it was just wanting to storytell, realizing that the Lord like delights in us doing what we're like called to do, or like the gifts that he shares with us, and then truly him making a path for it and me like being obedient to it, or at least attempting to be, not always obedient, but saying yes enough to him that it led to me getting to now be in the industry and loving what I do.
That's so awesome. Did it feel scary when you were like interviewing in Guatemala at the time? Were you like, oh my gosh, yes, like if I get this I'm so in? Or were you like, wait, oh my gosh, I don't know about this feels scary? Like how did you feel?
I felt so many emotions. I think I had this feeling of like, if this happens, if it does work out, like it's too weird and insane. Like I just love when crazy things like happen, or when something weird happens, or when someone comes home and says like I had a weird day. That to me is like the most interesting thing ever. So I truly was like, this is just too sporadic and strange, and for me to be here thinking I'm just like going on a fun vacation with my friends and to end up interviewing for like this industry, like completely different job and life trajectory.
Dream job.
I was moving to Dallas, now I'm moving to New York, like totally different. Yeah. I was too like, this is too weird to not say yes to. So I think I had in the back of my head, like if this works out, I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I was also, logistically, it was like, I say that like going to Dallas, doing consulting, living that life, that also a lot of my friends were doing. Like there were a million little yeses. Like friends were there. Like a girl I really liked was there. Like, the job was there. Like I knew Dallas was familiar. It was near my family. There were so many little things. Yeah. And then Dallas was like a million little yeses. New York was one massive yes of like, I just felt so like stirred to do, like to follow what I felt like the Lord was like calling me, leading me to. Wow. So it was, I mean, whenever I got the job offer, it was like the end of the trip. It was like the third week of it or something.
Wow.
I flew home on like July 1st and I started on July 3rd. Like it literally, and I had months that I was supposed to move to Dallas.
Oh.
I had roommates I was going to live with. We were going to find out all these things.
Oh my gosh.
I was going to start till October. And so I went from just like coasting to like, wait, I went like the way things all ended up working out were just crazy. But like, I knew nothing. I knew no one moving here. My life like changed on a dime in like 3 days.
Whoa.
But I was just like, truly how fun.
Yeah.
The Lord gave me this, and I was like, truly, like, let's ride.
Go. Yeah. Wait, that's so awesome. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So how was it like when you got to New York? And like, how was the post-grad rapid transition?
Yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, it's just so. It was so fast that I didn't have to think about it too much, which was kind of like
that
awesome.
is kind of good.
I didn't have to wrestle with like the who am I now. I was like, and also as like potentially glamorous as like production assistant today show, whatever that might sound. I was working the shift that started at 2 a.m. So like I was
you were one of those people.
Yes, I was the first person in. The show starts at 7. Most people get there around like 4 or 5 or 6.
Okay.
I was like printing papers and getting coffee and all like all the like before anyone gets in the door things.
Yeah.
So I had to be there by like 2 every single morning.
Oh my gosh.
So in terms of just like community building, getting to know New York, whatever, I was going to bed at like 4 p.m. every single day. And I knew like truly no one. But the transition from college to just post grad is actually, for me, was like just such a, I didn't have a lot of time to think about it, but it was so different and like jarring.
Yeah.
And senior year of college for a lot of people, it's just so much fun. Like you have your best friends.
Yeah.
You don't have a ton of school. You map out your life or what's next. So you're not like, it's just a fun coasting time. And this was truly the opposite. This was like boot camp of adult life. And so that was difficult. And I just went from knowing everyone to knowing no one.
Yeah.
My second day in New York, I was definitely just like strung out a bit emotionally in terms of like, this is just like so much change.
Me too.
So so rapid. And I just remember saying like, I can't emphasize enough how little I knew about New York or people here.
Had you only been here for your internship?
My aunt lives here.
Oh, that's good.
So I had stayed with her whenever I interned, and I had visited a couple times before like growing up. But yeah, I had no like truly just like real knowledge. And I'm from such a small town, and I went to college in a small town.
So different.
It just was so different.
Yeah.
And I, day 2 of living here, told my random roommates who I met like on an online roommate website. I call it was like it felt like being on like a dating website. Like I was just like, they look cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I told him that I was gonna try to find a church because it was Sunday.
Yeah.
I was new here and I needed like a place, and he was an atheist, and he said like a self-proclaimed atheist, and he said like, I'm bored, I'll go with you. And he's like, I heard of this place called Church of the City through a friend, like because he had a friend that had gone there, and so I was like taking the advice of my like new atheist roommate. And I was like, sure, why not? And we went, and I just remembered like genuinely like I like say pretty like I like think that is like the like I was a Christian since I was 7 or 8 years old or 7 years old, but that was like a day that I like encountered like the Holy Spirit, like met the Holy Spirit, and I remember just like I like wept during like the service. I was just like so moved, and I mean from that moment forward, although the transition in New York was a lot and it was full and it was intense and I was tired a lot, I felt so at peace about being like, I will go. This church will be like home.
Yeah.
This is where my community will come from.
Yeah.
This is where like I will plug in and like meet the Lord in like unique new ways here.
Wow.
So even though it was strenuous and new, and I was on a 5-floor walk up and I knew nothing and all the things, I was like, I felt from day 2, I truly did feel this like peace in New York. That was pretty special.
Wait, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's like really awesome.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I feel like not a lot of people think about like moving to New York as like a place to grow your faith. I don't know. It seems like, it's going to be hard. Like there's not a lot of moving from Texas, because I also moved from Texas, and yeah, I feel like it's like a pressure cooker though. And it's like the intensity of people, because there's nothing cultural about it. So like the people who actually are in church here are so serious about their faith in like the best way.
Lukewarmness out the window.
It's not a thing here.
It doesn't exist. There's no time for it. Why would that's what I loved about New York too, is it forced it like really just like, pressure cooker's good. It squeezes you into be like, why would you be lukewarm here if you can go enjoy all the things the city has to offer, like in terms of like secular things that world has to offer, like the best of everything is like here in that sense. And so like there's no such thing as someone here who's just kind of like casually walking through anything in New York.
No, exactly, not with anything, because it's like if you're just
wandering around. Like, why would you
Rent's
pay in
too
rent
much.
into New York? Like,
Too much.
yeah.
It's all too much. Get out.
It's too much.
So that is actually like an immediate blessing. Is like everyone I was meeting at this church was like on, not just on fire, but more like, yeah, like Jesus is the person that I know the most, or this is the thing that I'm like seeking the most. Even though I'm also struggling, and also like I didn't walk into a room of perfect people.
Oh no.
I walked into a room of people that like were midway through surrendering like their life over every single day.
Yeah.
And that felt so refreshing.
Yeah, that's so good. I know that was like a big thing for me when I was visiting and like considering the move. I went to like a brunch of a bunch of girls from church, and their like boldness, I was like, oh my gosh, like they're just being so serious and like just saying what they mean, and there's no like, oh, do. And I was like, okay, I want to be in this community.
Yeah. It was, and it was just so easy. It was just so easy to be like, yeah, whatever is happening here, something is happening that I've never experienced before. I am just gonna like sign up, and I'll sit in the back, or I'll just get in, and I'll like literally I just want to be in the room for what is happening, and it was just, and that's the thing too. I really do feel like, and is that when we do say, like in my testimony, when I've said yes to the Lord, things have just not like been easy, by no means easy, but like things have truly just like fallen or woven or like found their way in a way that I've just like, truly I could not have orchestrated the way that this happened.
Yeah.
So
that's so good.
Yeah.
So tell us more about your life on the campaign trail.
Yeah. So I am it's called an Embed, EMBED. I am a 2024 campaign presidential embed, and I'm embedded with. So there's NBC, I believe, started this program. I hope other networks don't fact check. I think NBC started this program like 25 years ago.
Okay.
And the idea is that I think it actually came from like how like reporters would get embedded with like military units and stuff, like and overseas, or do like it's the same kind of like concept in that like we embed with presidential campaigns. So like the past 18 months or the past year since the Republican primary for president started, there were over a dozen candidates that were crisscrossing the country trying to make their case for why they should be the Republican nominee for president. And so it makes sense from a company perspective to like basically deploy these embeds who like full-time cover like a Tim Scott or a Mike Pence or a Donald Trump, or all these at the time. This cycle was Republican, so because President Biden is like the incumbent, so he's not running against like a bunch of different people. So does
he have an embed right now too, or no?
He does, but because he's also the president, he has the White House unit, which like basically covers him full time. And then also now there is shout out Namdi, he's the Biden embed,
awesome,
for NBC.
Cool.
So in July of last year, June and July, we were like in training. And so there's 9 embeds for NBC, and then we were each assigned like a presidential candidate to cover full time. And basically, once you're assigned this candidate, where they go, you go. Like truly, like they campaign here. They're in Iowa one day, you're in Iowa. Then they're in New Hampshire the next day, then you're there.
Yeah.
Then like if they take like a family vacay for like a couple days, then you're like off technically, but you're off when your candidate's off. And when you're running for president, you're not off that much.
Yeah.
Typically, historically. So you just travel full time, reporting on what you're seeing. So you're like we call it like embeds are boots on the ground. So like sometimes you're the only person for NBC like there, and you've got your camera and you're recording this candidate talking, and you're sending a note back to the company saying, Nikki Haley just spoke for 45 minutes about this issue, and she said this new thing about immigration that she's never said before, and you're just trying to provide as much context as you can.
Wow.
And you send that note out, and then all the shows and digital and whoever else can like take it and use that reporting for like their shows and stuff like that. So that is what I am. Is I'm embedded with a presidential candidate, and my specific candidate that I was assigned is Donald Trump. So since August, everywhere Donald Trump has gone on the campaign trail, I have followed and report on all his campaign rallies. He is like notorious for having those big rallies. Go to the rallies. Sometimes like fundraising type events, like if he does some type of like keynote speech that I think anything public that the press can attend, I go. A lot of campaign stops, so like he'll stop at like a Dairy Queen, or he'll stop at a McDonald's, or he'll stop.
And you're there?
I'm there. This in New York. Like last week, he stopped at like a construction site in a fire department, and so I'll go there and I'll be like like press representative like for NBC.
Are you like asking him questions, or you're asking like the people around?
Both? Yeah. So
you like know him. Like he would be like, oh, that's Jake.
he would not be like, oh, that's
okay.
Jake. I think it's also different because he's a former president.
Yeah.
So like the Secret Service, like it's not historically
yeah.
like you would truly, and a lot of the other embeds like know their candidates well,
right?
Because they'll be on
they're more of like a normal.
They're on the bus with them, and they're like in the car with them, and they're like even getting food with them.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's a former president, so things just look incredibly different.
Yeah.
Also, he also has more of like a contentious relationship like with the press.
Yeah.
That doesn't like we're not as like frequently social with him, and the way that like
sense.
maybe historically that's been the case.
Yeah.
But that being said, I've asked him, like dozens of questions, and
crazy.
he takes a lot of, he often will sometimes take our questions, and so it's a lot of that. It's also like I think the thing that embeds can do best, like the strength we have, is that we go to everything. Unlike, actually, we also have correspondents that go to just about every single thing too. But like the idea is that the embed is going to be the one every single thing. Like I go to every rally, everything I can possibly go to, and because of that, I see a ton of Trump supporters, a ton of like his MAGA base. And so I do a lot of interviews with his supporters.
Yeah.
Issues they care about and where they like disagree with Trump if they ever do. And what could it take for them to lose their support? And like, will any of these indictments do anything to alter your support? So it's a lot of like reporting back to the company. I spoke with a dozen Trump supporters today in Wisconsin. And
today?
No,
sorry.
No.
I know you didn't today.
But on a random day.
Yeah.
And they would say, I would say like, this is the theme on how these Wisconsinites are feeling about so-and-so.
Wow.
So it's a ton of travel. I gave up my apartment. I don't have an apartment anymore because I just travel full time. It's like an 18-month like boot camp masterclass in political journalism.
It's so cool.
And it's just like crisscrossing across the country following your candidate. And so in this case, like where Trump goes, I go.
Yeah.
So he's in court for 6 to 8 weeks.
So here you
in a
are.
hush money trial, and so here I am in New York for 6 to 8 weeks.
Thank goodness.
Yeah,
That's good.
And for me personally, it's great because I get to be back with some of my friends and do stuff like this.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Is this like something you've always wanted to do? Is do political journalism, be on the campaign trail, or did it kind of come up once you were already like in New York working in the news?
Yeah, right when I was in that period of being in college and being like, how do I storytell for a living? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Can I do that? When I was interning at the Today Show, I would answer the front desk like phone calls that we'd get in from like actually the funniest phone calls ever. Like you'd get a call from like a sweet lady in Montana who would be like, Hoda wore the same outfit twice this week or the same color twice this week, and that like cannot happen anymore. And I'd be like, gotta.
She's just like a viewer
all the time. That was like one of my jobs as as an intern was like to answer the viewers like phone calls.
Oh my god.
It was the front desk, but viewers would get the number online and they would call.
Wait, oh my gosh,
or they'd be like, the graphic behind Al today had snow, but here in Missouri it's like sunshine, and I'm like, gotta, I'll pass it up.
Right.
So I would sit there a lot, and I'd sometimes be bored. But across like the hallway were like televisions, and it would be all of our networks, all the shows we had on. And I used to. This was 2020, so it was a presidential year.
Big year.
And this was before COVID too, so that it wasn't like dominating the news cycle yet.
Oh, right.
And I saw these. So Embed sometimes do like on air stuff, and I remember like seeing a couple of them on air. And I recommend anyone do this that's in their 20s and like curious about an industry. Like I feel like most people do this. If I see someone that I'm like, that job would be cool, I'm immediately like LinkedIn stalking them, like, trying to figure out what was their path and what are their interests and how do they get there. And I did that a lot with people I'd see on television because I was interested in the political reporting they were doing. Yeah. And a lot of them were embeds. Okay. So that's how I learned about the program. I guess this might have even been a little earlier. It might have been like 2019. But I learned about it a little earlier. Was so like, it just was like this perfect intersection of everything like I was interested in. Like I've always been interested in politics and the way that it works and doesn't work for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I was super interested in storytelling and media, and this truly was like the cross section of that. So I used to be like obsessive about like I would reach out to so many of them and just get them on the phone and like
that's so good.
Ask their stories and understand why they liked it and didn't like it and what was great about it and how they got there. And so I would say for 4 years it was like a deep prayer that ultimately I would get to just in some way be a part of this Embed program.
In 2024.
In 2024.
Because you probably wouldn't want to do it.
That was exactly
4 years,
that.
You're going to be like what?
30? Oh my God. In 4 years, I'll be 30.
Whoa.
I'm 26 now. That's crazy.
Then yeah.
I won't even be around in 4 years probably.
What do you mean?
30?
You think you'll be dead?
No, just kidding.
That's not real, but you
30.
couldn't be on this podcast.
That's true. yeah, I think I was nervous because I was like, yeah, and just that in 4 years I would be maybe like too old to do this,
Yeah.
or like I would want, because the idea is that they kind of do have younger people who like are willing to kind of give up 18 months of
You
their life.
might want to uproot your life when
Totally.
you're like more settled. Yeah.
Totally. So I was nervous about that, but I was like, yeah, it was gonna be such a confluence of things. But I was like, 2024 Embed program was truly a prayer, a deep prayer for like 4 years of my life, where I just like, before I had the job as a PA at Today's Show, before I before I moved to New York, it was like a prayer I had. And even when I like decided, okay, I'm gonna go into business and like whatever, it was still like a prayer I had, is like somehow that this happens.
Oh my god.
And again, like just the Lord provided, like He really did. And I remember the day I like found out I got into the program, and I just remember like I kept like saying out loud, like, Lord, I can't believe you did this. Like I actually can't believe you did this, because it really was like just such a kind of like a windy route to end up there, and it was not traditional. And I had wanted it for a while. Yeah. And he gave me that opportunity.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And has it been like everything you dreamed?
It has been, and more, and it's been like the spectrum has been wider than I thought. Like the amazing things have been more amazing. The tough things have been tough. Like, because it is so difficult to like upend your life. Yeah. To not have a home, to live out of a suitcase. Now granted, there are like a million amazing things logistically too. Like I live out of hotels, and I get to like fly wherever I want I'm going for work, but I'm like always going to see all these crazy parts of the country. Yeah. It is really cool, the things that I'm getting to do, but it is just hard to like know that my friends and life is happening in New York and other places, and that I am just like out, like fully out, kind of on this separate thing. Yeah. But it is amazing. I have met people. I think I have like empathy for America and for Americans and for people across the country has grown significantly, where I'm just like wow, even people that I like would personally disagree with maybe something that they're saying, when you just are talking to someone on a Tuesday morning in a diner, and it's your job to ask them questions just about like, are you paying all your bills on time? Like, do you feel safer under this presidency versus the previous presidency? Like, and they all are all through the lens, obviously, of politics. Yeah. But like just understanding that like someone is scared or fearful or like whatever makes their political opinion to me like not matter less, but I'm just like, oh, they're it oftentimes feels like maybe this person, in my view, is confused or has been misled, misinformed. But it oftentimes the feeling I walk away with, not always, but oftentimes the feeling I walk away with is, man, this person is just doing the best they can with like what they have. And so I just like have grown in a lot of empathy for a lot of these people, which is an incredible like trait, I think, or not trait, but rather like it's such a good tool and like practice that I've been given to like get to just all the time talk with people who are like, just so different, but really good people. No, absolutely. And with the career like that you're in, I feel like having that's really good that's a program that a lot of people do, because it like would build that. It does, early in your career. Yeah. Then you have that lens for the whole rest of your career. And the idea is that like these networks are headquartered in DC and LA and New York, like NBC and ABC and all these like great big networks, news networks. And the idea is like someone's got to be out there like talking to all the people. And granted, like that is happening in a million different other ways too. Yeah. But it's cool to be a part of that. Yeah. Like I get to be a part of the people that are just like talking to the person in the middle of like Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Like it's awesome to get to have these conversations with these people, and it's so fun. It's a lot of hotel points, a lot of flight points, a lot of car rental points. That's awesome. It's a lot of never knowing where I'm going, and then like on a Sunday I'll get a text being like, hey, are you good to go to like Missouri this week, and then like California this week, and then like jump over to Texas for a second. And it's a lot of that. Yeah. But it's like a front row seat to actual like history taking place, like people running for president, and I get to sit there and watch it all happen. That's so cool. It's pretty fun. And report back. That is so cool. Yeah. Wow. It's fun. I am very, very grateful. Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned that not having a home is hard for right now. It's like fun, but also weird. Obviously, things honestly have worked out in your favor in a lot of ways, and like God has blessed you with a lot. But, like it still can't probably be easy, right? So like what's been hard about? Could be this job or just your 20s in general. Yeah. I think the answer would apply to both 20s in general and also like just this program specifically, which is like how much I want to like grab onto things like this and just like have things clinch and just have control of life. And how much this job has forced me to just like let go. Like,
yeah.
it feels almost basic to want to like have the same bed to sleep in every night, like the same place to go to every night, or your coffee shop at the end of the street, or your neighbor that you know, or like just some familiarity and some consistency. And that just like just doesn't exist. That's like out the door for me during this like stage. And so that has been really tough to not have like, just the consistent things in life that you would hope to have.
Yeah.
When you're 26 years old, and that's also true. I think outside of this Embed program too. Like I think I moved to New York and I was like really hoping to you want to like establish roots. Like you want things to be established.
Yeah.
And I also think in terms of like kingdom building, it's really easy to get caught up in like building your own kingdom and like thinking and like just like my friends and my job and my life and my spots and my like this and I think this has like almost like reoriented where it is I'm trying to get to a place where it's no longer my natural response to be like my this or my that and more like truly just like trying to get to a place of like kingdom vision of like, okay, I don't actually know where I'm sleeping like in 2 nights and where I'll be or this and that, but like how can I be interruptible right now? Like how can I walk in a way that is like going to build like the Father's kingdom? And so it is not easy, and I'm truly not saying I'm good at it. Like if anything, I've like struggled through it. Yeah. But it is cool the way that I have been like forced to just take these like tight hands and just like kind of like let them go and like let them be lighter and say like my palms are open. Like the Lord has provided and He's continued to provide. Yeah. And I have a record of remembrance of that. Yeah. I also have the Bible that tells me that story of people over thousands of years, and so like wrestling with. Like, I don't think that your 20s should be messy just because. Like, it's not. There's this book, The Defining Decade. I don't know if you've read it or heard of it, but it is about 20s being about calculated risks. And you should be doing things that are scary and whatever, but you shouldn't just be doing them frivolously and just because. Like, this should be a time where a lot of us are either single or we don't have children. And we not that we get to be more selfish, but we get to, like, do things that we maybe wouldn't do if we had 2 kids and a mortgage to pay for or something. And so I've like, I don't want this time for me to just be like, oh yeah, like doing whatever, like crazy. But I do want I do want it to be like this like calculated kind of insanity of like, I like that it's messy. I like that it's uncertain, but I'm also doing a lot and I'm learning a lot and I'm trying to also like take in that information and learn and grow and become a better person. So I think, it's not easy. Yeah. This grip thing is something that we do as humans because it's like we want control. Yeah. But learning how this job has forced me rather. It's like put something in my hands and like force my hands to be open and just say like I'm holding these things lightly. And control is not easy and something that is like difficult, but it's something that I'm like learning to like try and like let go of.
Yeah. That's really good. What does that look like practically?
The thing that's made me like try and relinquish control has been things like thinking that I'm going to Florida and then getting a text saying actually you're going to Oregon, or like thinking that I have a chill work day and then it comes out that Trump just did a 90-minute interview with like Time magazine and now I have to like report out everything that happened in it. And like, so I just live in such a lot of my job is reactionary. Yeah. And so I just don't have a lot of.
You can't like plan ahead really.
Truly cannot.
So what does that look like with like your faith? It's kind of an open-ended question.
Yeah. Well, I'll say that what has been, again, just like the Lord has met me. Like I was so worried about, okay, if I'm never back in New York, like I won't go to church in the city for 18 months. Like I won't see my friends that really, one, I want to be around and love on them, but also like they encourage me and like build me up. Well, I'm not gonna be around that. Yeah. I'm not gonna be around, and one, I've been constantly reminded by incredible people at our church that like the Lord is here whenever we are here, but then He also goes where like He's with us, and so like that has been a large encouragement. But two, He has like uniquely provided, I feel like, a lot of moments where I just like all of a sudden was off on a Sunday and got to be back in New York. Yeah. Or like became available to stream the service, or like there's also been like probably some interpersonal conflict of like, yeah, how do I do this job well? But also realize it's just a job. It truly is just a job. It's just something that like the Lord has like given me to do for His kingdom. But it like is a job, and like the most important thing is my relationship with Christ, and also like loving other people.
Yeah.
So there has been like I would say like interpersonal conflict and struggle too of like what does it mean to do a job well, but then to also leave the job and I don't like I am unresolved there. I'm like still like fully wrestling through what that looks like, and I also like I'm young and I'm but I do think it's important that we figure this stuff out now before we're 40 with kids and like can't get away from my work phone for 10 minutes to like spend time with my children or to get in the Word. So the answer is like what it looks like is for me right now is a bit of wrestling of like what actually does it mean to do a good job at work, and what if work asks for more than I feel like I can have, and also thankfully too at work I have incredible bosses truly and coworkers who are like amidst the insanity of what like covering news and covering politics is, they are actually really good about like doing their best to carve out space for us to have some time too, which has been great.
Okay, so you're saying it's like right now it's like a crash course in work-life balance because your life's insane, but you're trying to like kind of lay a foundation so that you're not just always working for the rest of your life.
Yes, and also, and I think I heard John Tyson talk about this somewhere, maybe on some podcast or something, but he was saying like recognizing the season is so important and just like knowing what season you're in. And so not that's not me like leveraging it and then being like, oh, I'm just like I'm called to work nonstop right now, so that's what I'm gonna do. That's not what I'm saying, but more so like recognizing, this is gonna be in 18 months where I am gifted a very unique opportunity to hopefully do something for the kingdom, and I may not have a lot of free time. I may not like my Sabbaths are gonna look different. My it's not gonna take place in the same city. It's not gonna. I'm not able to like plan out a Bible study with like the guys in the way that I make. Things are gonna look different.
Yeah.
But recognizing the season that the Lord has called me in, and then saying like, Lord, will you like provide ways for me to be able to meet you? And He has, and He will.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. Okay, is there any perspective that working in the news has given you on like our generation or a cultural moment? Because I'm sure being on the news in 2024 looks really different than like in 2014 or 2004.
Yeah, no, totally. I think, and this is like nothing new, but like everything is so digital now. And so like what we do is Embeds looks very different because it used to just be like everything was for like the Today Show and for nightly news or like now there's just so many mediums and platforms that we like are creating content for, trying to provide news to like in so many different spaces for so many different generations. So I think that is like very apparent to me in just the way that like people consume news differently. News is like changing so much. Political news is changing so much. So it just looks, to me, in terms of content provided, it's just like very diverse. Like I'll have an idea for a story, and I might pitch it to do a package that goes on a show called Meet the Press Now, and it might premiere there, but then it also like becomes an Instagram reel, and then becomes a TikTok, and then it becomes a story, and then it's just like.
Do you have to make all that, or someone else does?
We have great people that assist with all those things, but like I'll like try and champion it. So like I'll write the story and have our amazing editors will help, or I'll like film the Instagram reel, but then like we have awesome people that will edit it and piece it together.
That's really
make
good.
the floating head thing. You know, on TikTok, like when someone's like talking and their head's like floating around like an image.
I do know what that is.
Just,
I don't have TikTok, but
my friends always make fun of me because they're like, "Why do you keep making your head like float all around?" I'm like, I didn't do that.
Didn't make it.
I didn't do it.
Yeah.
In terms of like Gen Z, like my lens, honestly, right now, especially like through work, is like through a political lens of just like, one thing that I do. One, it's not normal to have like a lot of like Gen Z people, at least, especially like at a Trump rally, which is again like my experience. There's not like a ton of Gen Z folks that are out there doing that. What I heard the other day, and I just find it really, this is maybe not as much my experience, it's just what I find interesting is like, I heard someone talk, I forgot who it was, it might have been John again, but he was talking about how Gen Z is like potentially going to be like labeled or branded like the open generation because although they aren't rooted or attached maybe as much to like faith, they have such a like openness towards like spirituality. They maybe don't even mean like in a biblical context or in like a Christian context, or even like a predominant religion. Rather, just they like are open and accepting to like the idea of spirits.
Something.
And so. honestly, in my like experience, even with some of the conversations I've had out on the road, it is like a very open generation, which is to me is like really exciting and encouraging, because it's like I think on our hands is a generation of people that like actually would be sensitive to like a move of the Holy Spirit. Like I believe that we have a generation on our hands, though maybe not anchored again in like faith, and though maybe like the nuclear family doesn't look like it has over the past decades and centuries, and they are being so tempted and challenged with like phones and like the data that is being like downloaded into their brains through social media and through just information on smartphones. I think what we have on our hands is a generation that is open to like more than just what this world is currently offering, and that feels consistent with the experience and the conversations that I'm having with people even out on the road too. When I just like talk to it'd be a 24-year-old Trump supporter in Michigan, and although they like have these political feelings about this and this, like there does seem to be this like openness where they like are I don't know, hungry for more, tired by the way things look when it comes to politics, tired by the way things look when it comes to what they're being kind of fed and told is the world. And so I just guess I have a hope that like, that this generation would be like sensitive to what God might do in a way that maybe, weirdly enough, we've been too distracted. Like even though Gen Z has the potential to be the most distracted ever, maybe because they always had it, are like the idea that there's something more maybe excites them or something.
No, wait, that's so interesting. It kind of makes me think of like, that quote that says superficiality is the curse of our age. Have you heard that?
No.
Okay, I think about it a lot, but I don't think that quote is from like the 2020s. Like I think I don't know how old it is, but I think it's like superficiality has been the curse of a lot of ages, but maybe like we've reached like a capacity where it's like, this is too superficial. It's time to stop. Like, can we please have something deep? Can we please have something real? That would be so cool to see that in our generation.
It is. Or I love like, and I know this happens always, but like I love when like things from 3 decades back becomes like culturally cool again or something. And I just think like, I don't know how cool it would be if this like generation, like I see ads all the times for like phone like flip phones. I don't actually think they're like gonna become like more like ever more popular than a smartphone. But just how cool that people are like, I think they're open to like, wait, could life not be like this? Could I not be on my phone 20 hours a day? Like, is that possible?
Yes.
Could my like little settings tell me that I'm not on Instagram for 6 hours a day?
Yes.
Like, is that possible?
Yeah.
And so I think that like, I just think there's an openness to that.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, like we did a sermon series on this forever, like for 8 or 9 months at Church of the City, like God comes where he's wanted. Yeah. And I just feel like there's a ripe potential there. And I hear people talk about it a lot, but I would say it matches like my experience that I found on the road too.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
It is. It's refreshing. It's like,
it's really refreshing.
There's hope in that.
There is. And even like starting to see work, because I remember you mentioned the open generation, and then Laura Lee also mentioned the open generation.
Did she?
And I was like, oh my God, like I never even heard this. And now it's like everywhere.
It's definitely not mine.
I think it's a Barna study. I think that's what she said.
And I feel like John said in a sermon maybe or something.
Probably. Okay. I don't know. But there's like a great book that I keep talking about on the podcast called The Anxious Generation. It's also about Gen Z, or like born after 1995, which I think is technically Gen Z. Yeah. But one of my friends was like, I'm not Gen Z. And I was like, yes, you are, kind of. But it's talks about like the effects of smartphones, the phone-based childhood, adolescence, how that's like really affected Gen Z. We're seeing it like mental health statistics and stuff like that. So even like work, like that book just came out, and a ton of parents are like committing now to raise their kids without phones. And I'm like, maybe we're starting to see some movement.
Some people that are like, wait, this is not awesome. Like,
this is not very awesome.
And there's other ways.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, what gives you hope?
Ooh.
Well, that was a hopeful thing, but what else?
I mean, in the context of, well, not in the context of, just in my life, I think, I'm so hopeful because of like the peace that like the Lord has given me. It is so natural in life to just constantly like I think I am like a person who's like strives and like wants to achieve and wants to do. And like so many, just time and time again in life, like if I got that thing or not, I think I was like again reawakened, or just had this moment of epiphany of like, oh, like that thing is still just not like the thing I like thought it was, or is like the end all be all. And I just think every single time the Lord is there and it's like come to me, come to me, come to me. I'm so gracious and compassionate about it, compelling. And so I'm just, I'm you would think that covering an election and covering an election as contentious and politically, volatile and polarizing as this would discourage, and in some ways it can, just because it's like no matter what you believe, like covering these candidates who like say really awful things about each other and paint really negative images of how the other one will lead the country. Is like a taxing and heavy thing. But I also just have, this is like I know a prayer at Church of the City right now is like that the Lord would like break off the political spirit of the church. That like it has just been really encouraging to realize that who wins president 2024 is not going to like usher, like that's it, just there's no Jesus equivalent and there's nothing close to it. And covering it full time and being around a lot of people and in a world that kind of like treats it as if like this is the end all be all. How peaceful to like be amongst that crowd of people, but also be like, this actually isn't like, this doesn't determine my eternity and doesn't have to yours either. And just there's like such a peace in knowing that the Lord is truly like at the helm. And so that is a hope that I like constantly have, is just that like no matter what happens, no matter what the outcome of this is, and not saying that it won't affect people and that people, who is president absolutely matters in the world, but getting to walk around with like this peace of of I know who who holds like my fate and the fate of this world is like and like newsflash, good thing he is a loving and generous and compassionate God, and then I can believe that so like fully. That is something that like gives me hope amidst what looks like darker times, or what looks like a lot of like it's so crazy or it's so bad you have to laugh. Like that's like something we like say a lot. It's like it's so insane what we're covering that you just have to like laugh about it, which is a kind of a healthy coping mechanism. I don't really know. But I have just like hope in the Lord and His provision and His nature, which is just like He loves us and He's kind,
loving,
He's gentle, and He's he is also like strong and powerful and almighty and all knowing. But it is just it is so I get to like proceed in a different way than maybe some of my coworkers, because I just get to have this peace about the way the world is, and I also like want everyone to have it as well.
I know they can.
What are you looking forward to
in the immediate long term
in life, in your 20s, after this job?
I'm looking forward to my contract goes through the inauguration. And like notoriously the week or two after, like everyone just takes the biggest, most fun vacation, go to the beach, see my friends and family, like consistently. I honestly like, I look forward to finishing the job well. It's like 6 months before leading up to the election. And it's actually it's like we're in a kind of lull period and it's about to really pick up and get crazy again. So I am super looking forward to like just finishing the job well. And then truly, and it's not as easy saying this on this side as whenever you have received resolve of some kind, but I'm really looking forward to just being like, I wonder what the Lord's like gonna do next. And not even in terms of just like job or career or something, but just like, wow, I wonder where God wants me to live now, or like I wonder where God wants me to work, or what He's like thinking up, and obviously like trying to like listen to the way that He's moving to and what He's saying right now. But it's exciting to be. Like in your 20s and to just know, I think, and this is the thing they say at Church of the City too, but like a record of remembrance is so important, and being like, oh, look the way He provided here. Look the way He did this. And remember how like stressed and anxious I was here, and He still came through here. And remember when I didn't know how this was going to work out, but He still came through here. And remember how, not that everything has to resolve, but remember when I like was like suffering in this moment and like felt a lot of like, I was super unfulfilled or happy here, but He met me there and He was there with me there. Remember how He's always there. So I think like, when I do that exercise and I remember how good He's been to me, I'm like, it doesn't mean that it's going to be like the most like immediately fruitful, big, extravagant thing. I'm not like trying to like picture some aesthetically beautiful next like career launching step or something,
Yeah.
or yeah, it's not me like dreaming of like the next department, but rather being like, I can't wait to see like how the Lord navigates next and like what he does and how he wants me to like, how he'll fold me into like the work that he's doing. And yeah, loving people wherever hopefully I end up going. So I think, yeah, I look forward to finishing the job well, look forward to seeing how he moves and hopefully being like obedient to like what he does. Yeah.
I think it says in like Psalms, like he holds our hand, he delights in the details. Like, so I just feel that he will continue to do, I know they'll continue to do those things. And so I get excited about like, wow, what does he have like planned to do next, or how will he meet me, and what are the ways that he'll fold me into his plan. So
Yeah.
I'm just excited to finish strong and then to say yes to whatever's next.
Yeah. That's so good. And that's such a beauty of your 20s of like being like, I literally don't know what's next. It's like, there's no 5-year plan. There's no like, just a surprise.
Yeah.
But you get to like look forward to it.
And you can make a 5-year plan. And we have ideas, we have things, we have goals, and we're working towards them, certainly. But too, it's like, it's like my hands are up to.
That's good.
Okay.
Oh, Jake, thanks for sharing your story.
Of course. Thank you
is
for
so
having me.
fun.
This was cool.
You're awesome.
This was really cool. Thanks for doing this, for highlighting people and letting me be part of it.
Of course. Yeah. Guys, you can find Jake on Instagram.
Yep.
Anywhere else? On the news. That's one place.
Yeah, Twitter.
Oh,
X.
X.
Formerly Twitter.
I think everyone still calls it Twitter.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't even have one. But so
You don't? Twitter.
So you're on Twitter?
Yeah. Twitter, Instagram, in person. Meet me at, I'm trying to think of where do I go a lot.
That was not the question.
No, I don't mean me. I mean like, where else can we connect?
Instagram, Twitter, the news.
The news. That's it.
Okay, so you guys can find Jake on all those places. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Tears and Joy Podcast, and all of our other social media and newsletter will be linked in the show notes. And we will see you guys back next Thursday.
Bye, guys.